Welcome to episode 3 of our podcast, Sage's Retreat, home of all things dad and games related current events, along with anything else we can think of. My name's Lee, this is my co-host Nathan.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about some of our favourite films. We're going to give you a little taste of what we like, what we don't like, and we'll see what happens. Films, we've had them, they've been around for a long time. I've been around for a long time. Let's start at the beginning. What film do you remember from when you was little? What gives you that bite? What is it when you see it, when you're walking around and you're looking at the shelves in HMV? Is that a thing anymore? Do we do that? We're looking at them shelves and we go, oh, I love that film. I used to watch that film when I was little. What's yours?
Being a child of the 80s, it's got to be an 80s film.
Of course.
I'm going to go... I've picked two, but it's four.
Okay.
First one, I'll go with Goonies.
Goonies?
Yeah. I know that's not one of...
No.
It passed you by a little bit,
It's
didn't
a legitimate... No, well, I'm like, what, 6 years older than you. So when did that come out? Do you remember?
84, I think.
Okay.
Or 85.
So that would have been the film where your dad was like, oh, let's go and watch the Goonies. It looks really good. Let's go cinema. And I didn't have a dad, so that didn't happen. But I ended up missing the Goonies until maybe 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was only recent that I watched it, and I'm like, it's okay, it's all right. I enjoyed it. When I was, feel free to talk about it a bit more in a second. But when I was at school, I had a little bit of weight on me, and so you get bullied because that's how school goes. It's fine. Don't worry. I'm not emotionally broken by that at all. Okay, a little bit. Yeah. And I used to get, what was that thing? That little fat kid, was it the Truffle Shuffle or something?
Yeah, Truffle Shuffle,
They used to
Chunk.
do stuff like that to me, and I'm like, I don't know what you're on about.
You didn't even get the reference.
No.
It was wasted.
So they were bullying me about something I had no clue about. I either look stupid, but I'm just like, no, I just don't get it because I'm poor. Sorry. You're bullying me for two things now. One, having a bit of weight. Two, for being broke. Thank you. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice one. Just hit me where it hurts in two spots. And you got me. But yeah, Goonies, go for it.
But so good film for me, bad film for you because of the painful memories.
Well, sort of. It's a weird one. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it just reminds me of being a child, and it was one of the films I was excited to show my kids, and they love it as well. Okay. I could easily watch that now and tomorrow and the next day, and still be happy with it. I think as a premise for a film, and it just encompasses everything that you want in a film, especially a kids' film. I know there's a little bit of bad language, but that's because it's 80s. It's not nothing serious.
It wasn't
not really any...
It wasn't the. I dare I say, it wasn't the snowflake generation, was it? It was.
So
shit happened, and
you're allowed to be 12-year-old and say shit in a film.
Also,
so that's fine.
When I was 12, I would swear.
Yeah,
and it represents the real life, I guess, in a way, doesn't it? Yeah. But yeah, Goonies, solid choice, old film, pretty much a classic, I'd say.
Yeah, a proper classic. It's one that I'll love forever.
In the same era as sort of like Indiana Jones, fun
I love
adventure,
that as well, yeah.
Fun adventure, weird stuff happening. What's this? A truly great film. Not a nostalgia hit for me, clearly, because I missed it. But it doesn't mean it wouldn't go on a list of nostalgic films. I think I can watch it and appreciate. I can appreciate the old. Also, it was the 80s. There was no phones. There was no like, oh, where's Trevor? Let's call him. No, Trevor's gone.
Yeah.
You're not going to see him until he comes back, and that's probably when it gets dark because that's when his mum told him to come back.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to come back with a broken bike because you have a lot of fun. And break shit. That was the 80s. Nowadays, my daughter went to school this morning, and she's now getting in the habit. She walks, and she's getting in the habit of sending me her tracker. So I actually will have it to kind of like, and I'll have her route when she goes to school. And she does it for me because she knows it makes me feel better. Do you know, she doesn't have to do it so much, but there's been an occasion where she was struggling with the road and I think it was busy, and I'm looking at it and I was like, we'll just go up this way, and she did, and then she was fine. But yeah, you couldn't do that in the 80s. You'd have to find a phone box. Actually, the phone box at the bottom of my street, go down the street, turn left, just round a corner, got removed last week, and I didn't even realise. Karina went, phone box is gone. I'm like, oh yeah, the phone box is gone. Anyway,
so it's a rare sight to see them now, isn't it? Because I've noticed when you see one, it's like, phone box. No. Remember when they used to be everywhere?
They're always
at least on a corner somewhere or on shops.
Groups of like 6, like a chunk of phone boxes. But we've gone off on a tangent. You said this earlier. Go on a tangent, so ignore that one. Jumping back into nostalgic films. Mine.
Next.
Can I? Oh, you go for your second. I'm interested in your second.
Yeah. I'll go for my second because it's quite possibly my favourite film. Back to the Future as a series. Specifically the second one.
Okay.
But I think that ties into other stuff because I like westerns, which is the third. I like back in time, the 1950s style at first one, but I like the flying car, the hoverboards, the holograms, the futuristic stuff, because I've always liked that sort of sci-fi element in films. So it's good that
there's something special about it too, which I think pulls it away from the other ones. It is that look at those trainers. You know what I mean? Those zip, 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 and it's like, I want a jacket. I want to put my jacket on.
Yeah. And
it's like a one size fits all. Yeah. And I love the fact that he has that broken sleeve that just dangles by his side. So what are you doing? But yeah, that kind of like you put on, and it's only recently they've started to make. I know they've done it before as like a prototype, but I think it's only recently they've started to make more commercially viable trainers that will zip up. Now. Another conversation with this is there's a theory that science fiction creates the future. So would we have ever had self-lacing trainers if it wasn't for Back to the Future having them in the film? I'm going to say no. Because they would have just stuck to Velcro, and I mean, just give me some 80s Velcro trainers. They would have gone for Velcro or like slip-ons, you know, maybe with some sort of one over, not Velcro, maybe Velcro is I don't like Velcro, but like some sort of clip or something that adjustable in some way. But yeah, would we have ever had zip up self-tying shoes if it wasn't for Back to the Future 2? I don't think so. I don't think so. That I love the fact that it was like Jaws 13 or whatever. What was it? Do you remember exactly which one it was?
I think it was 19 or something stupid like that, wasn't it?
And he's walking through the square and it's like coming at him, and he's like, and he's ducking down to try and get out of the way of it. I think it was brilliant. Yeah, it's great. So my old nostalgic film is Back to the Future.
Oh right.
Yeah, the first one though.
Yeah.
But it's not just because, you know, I enjoyed watching it. It's not that. So it was because when I was little, when did it come out? Sorry, was it 84?
84.
So 84, I was 4, and a few years later, my uncle had it on VHS, which I think that VHS player recorder. So I don't know if it recorded. I'm going to say I think it did. Cost an absolute fortune. How much did a VHS? I'm tempted to look it up now, but I wonder how much a VHS player. And it wouldn't have been a really fancy one. It would have been a middle of the road cost back in those days. But I didn't have one at my house. We only lived up the road. So what I would do is on a Sunday, if I hadn't got anything to do, I used to go down a path to my grandparents' house, sit in the front room, and he had a collection of films and Only Fools and Horses. So I used to watch reruns of Only Fools and Horses, and then I used to put in Back to the Future, the first one, and watch that. They had a colour TV. I only had a black and white TV. I mean, most people those days had colour TVs, but we didn't. And I would watch it on a colour TV. Video cassette player recorder, the VHS, that was something that was sort of new to us, and a colour TV. So I was in the future already, going down to my grandma's house, and I used to watch Back to the Future, and that's what that film does for me. And there's no other film that does it, only that one, and that's my nostalgic film. It's quite to think about it now. It's one of those that's quite. It's not. I'm not like emotional, but it brings out emotion in my grandparents are dead, and that film for me, it's not just Back to the Future. It's that's that film I used to watch when I was little. And my granddad used to come through and give me some biscuits or something. We have an ongoing joke in our house about you don't just have one biscuit, you have two. And that's what my granddad always used to say to me. And like, if I was with somebody else, they used to be like, "Oh, have a biscuit." "Oh no, take two." You always used to say take, because one's never enough, is it? You have a biscuit, you always want another one, don't you? It's like you dipping one in your tea, you have one, or your coffee, you have one, and you're like, "I'm gonna get another one." So you get yourself another one, don't you? It's always the get two biscuits. It's great. Films that draw out emotion, I think, are a special thing. Which takes us on to a film that I wanted to talk about, which is a newer film, which is it connects our love of films, my less love than yours, but our love of films. And also the fact that we're fathers, but not only fathers, we both have daughters. I think the father-daughter relationship is very special, more so than the father-son. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they're different things. I understand that, but there's something about being a dad to daughters that makes you, you want to protect them. Like sons, my lad's gone to school. I'm not even worried about it. I've not been worried about him since the first couple of weeks he went into year 7. He's big enough and stupid enough, he gets on with it, and he's very sensible. He can be a dumbass, but he's very sensible, and I don't worry about it. But my kids going to school, my girls going to school, it's always in the back of, I wonder if they'll be alright. And the father-daughter relationship in Interstellar, which came out 2014, I believe, got me big time at the cinema. I went on my own. 2014, I didn't have a lot of people to go cinema with. Karina, there was my friend Aaron. I've been a few times with Aaron, but I used to rely on my cousin Gareth. And I think I'd asked him. I think he couldn't make it or something. So I'm like, well, I really want to see it, so I'm going to go on my own. And I sat in the cinema. It's the first time I'd been to the cinema on my own to watch a film. I love sci-fi films anyway. It's my genre, my go-to genre. If I'm bored and you go on Netflix, I always go straight to sci-fi, see what's on, and sometimes I'll even watch some sci-fi which I would consider to be crap sci-fi, just on the off chance that it's good, and it happens quite regularly. But for me, Interstellar is not just a science fiction film; it's a film about relationships and the meaning of those relationships, but even more because sci-fi, the meaning of those relationships across time, and the importance. The main character, he basically had to he basically had to put himself in a position where his daughter and son were aging and he wasn't. And it's an odd one, that the connection, because they had these. You've seen the film, haven't you?
Yeah.
Can you remember the call, like the messages, when she's getting older, and he was just in tears, and not only was he emotionally distraught on this spaceship, I was in the cinema just going, "Oh my God, what's happening to me?" I'm like, I'm just swelling up. I'm like, "Oh my God," seeing her be upset. I mean, obviously, she was a scientist, so I was quite proud of that. And she's doing what she loves. In the same way of what he's doing, she had the same goal, which was to save humanity, which is a very great. It's very a large goal, I think, in terms of sci-fi. It can't be something simple. No, it's save humanity. It's always the one, isn't it? the film does the saving humanity quite well in terms of looking at the Earth and seeing this dusty wasteland felt very real. It didn't feel. It felt plausible. It felt possible. And it's like, yeah, shit. It's good. I enjoyed that film. I went to see it twice at the cinema. And it really did. It did hit me. That's a film which I could probably only watch once a year, and I have to be in the right mood to watch it. It's a long film as well. I don't like being disturbed when I'm watching like a good long film. So it'd be one of those ones maybe in the daytime when the kids are around.
Yeah.
Are there any films that you feel similarly about in terms of emotional hit?
Yeah, I'm probably going to get laughed at because it's not what you typically call like a man's film or anything like that. I would have never watched it if it weren't for Jade that wanted to watch it. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called My Sister's Keeper.
I've heard of that. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but tell me about it.
Yeah, it's not the best film, but I think it hits you as a dad. That one proper hits you. It's got I can't remember her name, the little girl from Little Miss Sunshine. She's in it, and Cameron Diaz is in it. And it's basically the premise of the film is the eldest daughter's got cancer, and she's had cancer since she was like a 3-year-old or something, and they have another baby to take stem cells and bone marrow and stuff like that from. So that's where the My Sister's Keeper comes from. So she has to do that.
Yeah.
Like do loads of operations and stuff. And it's like the story of both the sisters. And the eldest sister, she's like going through chemo. She decides to not tell her mum and dad because her mum's fought for her like all her life that she's not going to carry on waiting. She don't want to put her little sister through it, which is not the dad part, but the dad who's in it. There's one point in the film because it's like father-daughter relationship. There's one point where she's been through chemo and she's really ill, and it's American, the film, so she's going to a prom, and she's got a lad has come to the house to wear flower and everything, and she walks downstairs like wearing a prom dress, and she's bald because she's through chemo, and like the look on the dad's face is like, and it proper just gets you because it's like that's when he like realises like that's probably his last big moment. He's not going to get to walk her down the aisle or see her have kids or help her with finding a job or something like that. That's his last proper memory, and that one always gets me. That film, I mean, it's not best film in the world. It's I think it's borderline like a sort of Channel 5 film, but
Channel 5,
but with a bigger budget. But it's just that part of the film. It just every time we've watched it, that just always gets me. That one. It just makes you thankful like for your kids, and makes you want to spend a bit more time with them and try a little bit harder when perhaps you should. So I think that one's my one. My father Fields film.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've not seen it. But from you describing it, I think it might be.
I recommend watching it. Yeah.
How did Cameron Diaz? How does she do in it?
Normal, like sort of stomp about. Like I'm going to get things done. I'm strong-headed, and she doesn't accept that that her daughter's going to die, and she's offended that she's took this decision to not carry on, which is good. I think it's one of her sort of last films, that as well. What Cameron Diaz did, I think she maybe did 2 more after that. So it is a good one.
Trivia for the film: Cameron Diaz has no children in real life at the time of the filming, and that was the first time that she played a mother. So I suspect that was an interesting job for her. I know she's an actress, whatever. But
she does a good job. Yeah, she just can't fault her in a performance on that. I mean, some other actors are not very good. There's a brother storyline that don't really go anywhere. I know it's based off of a book, and the book's supposed to be loads better. And Jade had already read the book before we watched it as well.
Oh, she read it.
Yeah. So she already knew what we're happening. Alec Baldwin's in it, which he's quite good.
I like Alec Baldwin. I like him in a lot of stuff when he was younger. I know he's a bit of a piss taken out when he's on like Saturday Night Live. He does a good. I like the one that does Trump, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, he does a good Trump, but
the famous one of the Baldwins.
Yeah. Cameron Diaz, she retired in that film was 2009. She retired in 2014. She did a handful of other stuff, but I don't really think, I'm just scanning over it, but I don't really think it's anything. There's nothing big that she really did.
No, when Annie, her last one, and
Annie's
I don't think that went down very well. Yeah.
Is that the one where Annie was played by black girl, wasn't it? I remember people moaning about it. Yeah. I never even really watched Annie, so it didn't really mean out to me. To be fair, I get that people like to moan, but there's nothing wrong with the modern day take on it. So that's your emotional hit.
For me, yeah, that's.
Would you say
that's the one that I always draw back to? That I always think about. That's the one that brought a tear to my eye. That film.
Yeah. What a contrast! I'm in space with sci-fi, and you're looking at a kind of I don't know how to describe it. A family sort of dilemma, tragedy. Can't say that word. Tragedy.
I think that's because with Interstellar, I was a little bit angry watching that, that it would do that. I know this has got to save everyone and everything like that, but he gave up
his family.
His right, and his family to.
You think he gave up his right to care because he left the family?
Yeah, and every harrowing scene that he does, he deserves it, and I think that's why it did get me, because it makes you think: could you do that to your kids? Is it something that would sit right with you?
Could you go out and save the world, but you run the chance of losing your family? That's the question.
I'd like to think someone else could have done it. If it were me and I got asked to do that, I mean, I can't remember what it is that makes him special, that he has to be the one. He's some sort of farmer or something.
He does go into farming. Yeah, I think it's because he's one of the best at what he does. The best of the best of the best. That kind of.
But there's always someone better than you. That's what they say. So I'd like to think that someone else could have took that mantle, but didn't have kids.
I don't think there was. I think he was, because there wasn't a lot left of. Was it NASA? Was it still NASA in there?
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot left of the space agency, and he was, I think he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that was maybe part of it. Part of why it was so jarring. Jarring to watch it. Was like, shit, that's like if a house is on fire and you've got the chance of saving, imagine a house was on fire, you go walking down the street, there's a house on fire, there's a family in there that are struggling to get out, and there's a good chance that you could go and rescue them, but at the same time you might hurt yourself or die, and then it's like Would you jump into that fire to try and help people, or would you let them burn, knowing that your family would carry on? I've always wanted to kind of. There's two options. You either you go out a hero in some respects, or you go not a hero, I guess. And I'd like to give it a go, because if I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't try.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it. Maybe he had to try. Maybe if he succeeded and went out a hero, maybe that was his legacy that he was willing to leave to his family. And ultimately, I think he did. She got old, and interesting scene at the end when he got back. This is 100% spoiler podcast. That she'd said to him, a father should never see their child die, and he'd gone out to find Anne Hathaway. I would do that, to be fair. I would definitely go and find Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
And she had this like massive family. It was overall, I think it was a good ending. It was a good ending.
Yeah, I can't fault the film. I love the film. It is a really good film. It's just I would fault his decisions, because I think it's because it shows it in a different light and all. Because like if you went in a burning building and you died trying to save someone, then repercussions of your family that's left over, I think it can sort of be forgiven. But I think it's because it showed it in a light of he gets to see the repercussions. Like he gets to see her growing old and the teary messages like "I need your dad" and stuff like that. There's nothing we can do. I think that's what makes it a little bit more like harrowing, and that makes it made me sort of not turn on him, but like
100%.
Can't sympathise with him enough, because if he went out with a bang, like I don't know, say Armageddon, like where Bruce Willis kills himself, to set the bomb off to save everyone, bang, he's gone. He doesn't have to live with that. But I think because Interstellar, I can't remember how many years, is it 75 years or something he goes far, that he's away far or something like that.
Yeah.
And it we're only supposed to be 30 or something. I think even 30 is a long time to. I mean, you miss being the whole childhood, because his daughter like 8 or something when he goes, or 10 or something like that. I
want to say she's a bit older, but yeah, she's definitely. I mean, I'm looking at my lot now, and I'm thinking maybe she's younger than Paige, so I think she's under that sort of 14-ish.
Yeah.
But she's big enough, isn't she? She's not tiny. She's a reasonably sized child.
But you'd miss her becoming a woman, maybe getting married, getting a career, even having kids. Yeah, threatening. You miss out of being able to threaten boyfriends. So it's like, by the time you would get back, you're going to maybe see her becoming a grandmother. But then when he does get back, she's on a deathbed, and she's probably a great grandmother at this time. So he's missed all that. So I think that's what I have trouble with relating on that. But it is a really good film. I can see why. I think I can see why you get emotional on it. I think I might have when I watched it. I can't. It's been a while since I watched it. Maybe 2 years since I last watched it.
I don't think it was that. It wasn't that long ago, because I remember you saying that you hadn't watched it, and I was like,
I bought it on Blu-ray, didn't I, to watch?
Like, you've got to watch it, and you were like, oh, okay, I'll watch it. And then you watched it, and then you messaged me or told me, you went, that's one of the best films I've watched. And I was like, I don't often recommend a film when people really like it, but because of your more critical way and your whinging about films, because you turned around and said that you really liked it, I was like, yes, success.
I love a space film, I love a time travel film, and I love the harrowing emotion in a film. So it ticks all the boxes for me.
I think they knocked it out of the park, to use an American expression there. They 100% knocked it out of the park with that one.
The visuals and the music, the score on that it's epically good. It's easily one of the best. I can't find fault with the film.
There's saying about this. So there's two parts of the film which I pick fault with, and the one would be this part of it when I was in the cinema where I think the volume was too loud. Now either the cinema couldn't cope with it, and was
too old for it.
Was about to fall down, or it. I've heard other people say it before, as well, so I'm not on my own. There's a bit where they're docking, where the ship's spinning, and it's like, and it's like the spinning around. He has to measure it up. Can't see if you're listening, you can't see me do this, but I'm like twisting my hands around. But he's having to line it up, isn't he, and then lock it in. The music is really loud, and it's a little bit off-putting. I think it would not have hurt for them to turn it down just a notch, just a smidge, because if you're watching it, let's say you're at home and you're watching it, you always have to turn that bit down, because it's like that is just too late. If it's in the daytime, maybe not, but if it's later in the hour, I've got to turn that down. I like to listen to my dialogue, and when there's some action, I don't want to have to turn my TV down. I want it to be able to leave it on, and it's a long scene and it's a loud scene, and it bothers me. That's one bad part of the film. The other would be the ending. It's when you watch it the first time round, the ending is very it's frustrating, it's a bit confusing, it's a bit weird. It's taking what seems like practical sci-fi, realistic sci-fi, into a realm of this like futuristic time travel, weird possibilities that we've no idea, and it goes from one type of sci-fi to another type, and I think it's jarring. And I'm thinking maybe they could have done something different. It's like he's seeing through time, and it's like, what is going off? And you watch it. The more you watch the end scene, the more it sort of makes sense. You have to keep catching them little bits, because there's so many little bits happening with it. You watch it the first time, if you're an absolute genius, then maybe you get it and you love it. It's fine. but you watch it a few other times, it's like, okay, I'm understanding it more, and it's actually making me want to watch it again just to see if I've missed out on anything else. But I feel, for me, that ruins it for the first watch. In the same respect of 2001 Space Odyssey, we had a conversation about this, you saying you thought it was rubbish. But I really like the film. I find it very aesthetically pleasing. I love the colours, I love the way it's all set up. I mean, it's amazing. But the ending is very similar as well. In the case of it, just goes it goes out the window, and I'm like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? This amazing film. And maybe it's the ending which makes it amazing, which makes people remember it. But for me, it just makes it a bit confusing, a bit like it's up there like as a 9, as a 10, and it just goes down to a 6, just because of the ending. And I think it's okay to judge films like that. You can judge the beginning, the middle. You can kind of rank films yourself, don't you? I really love the beginning. I love that middle bit, but what's going off at the end? Or it has a rocky start, but then it gets better. There are films that do that all the time. So that would be as an emotional film for me. Keeping with the sci-fi theme, my favourite film is a sci-fi film. Of course, it's a sci-fi film. You know what? I actually have a handful of films which I consider to be my favourite film, depending on the mood I'm in. I'd say one is my favourite, but one is the most important to me. So my favourite film is Alien. The original Alien. Not Aliens, but Alien. Don't confuse the two. They're two extremely different films. Alien is atmospheric. It's a horror film. It's a sci-fi horror. You've seen Alien. Have you seen it? I mean, maybe a few years ago. It's a sci-fi horror. That film is designed to scare you, to create suspense, and it does that. It does it very well. First time you watch that film, if you're younger, maybe years ago, I think kids become more and more immune to these sorts of things, but as a young teenager watching that film, I was like a bit scared. I'm like, oh my god, this thing is picking people off one at a time. The actual xenomorph, the alien, only has... This is the legacy that he only had 4 minutes of screen time in that whole film. It was only there. You only saw it for 4 minutes. And that's how effective it was. That's how good that film was made in terms of suspense. And also it had a cat in it called Jonesy, which for me it's important. My friend Chris Jones, he died when he was 17. One of his favourite films was Alien, and I think it influenced me a little bit in the way it influences me in the way I look at it. It's definitely another. It's just it's a bit of a nostalgia thing for me. And his nickname was Jonesy. The bloody cat was called Jonesy, and it was one of his favourite films. And it's kind of ended up being a film which I like. You can't knock. You can't knock it. There's not a lot you can knock in that film which I would agree with. Even now, thinking of faults with that, I can't think of any. There was a bit of trivia for that film, is that when they were coming up with the story, obviously they're on a ship, they're travelling around, they weren't armed, they didn't have any guns, and I'm thinking they would, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
they would, even if it was just the captain and the second in command, they'd have a locker somewhere that would have armaments in it, just in case, because they were a mining ship. It was valuable in case they got raided. Maybe, surely this went on. I mean, something. Maybe there was this possibility of, rebellion by the crew. Maybe there was this. If you're out in space, I think there's always that chance of, let's be honest, aliens, someone coming aboard. Maybe, I don't know, but you'd be armed.
Yeah,
and they were like. The problem is that they were talking about whether or not they'd just shoot the alien, and they were like, no, we can't have them shooting the alien because that's too easy. And that's why they came up with the idea of the acid for blood. So if you shot the alien, it would just bleed and just put a massive hole in your ship. Clearly, I'm a massive fan of Alien, and guaranteed I'll be talking more about the Alien franchise and the artwork, etc. in the future.
Yeah, and we'll be looking at doing IMDb top-rated films talking about them. We'll both watch them, give our views, whether we think it should be there in that list, and all other things film, which ones we like, which ones we don't. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Just to mention on the things we like, we're looking at doing a genre list. So going through like action or sci-fi and just a very quick list of the films that we like from those genres. I think that'll be brilliant. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, if you're feeling generous, give us a quick like, give us a quick subscribe. We're on all major podcast platforms other than Apple. We're not on Apple. That's a long story, but we're skipping that for the moment. But you can find us on Podcast Addict, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or you can always just watch us on YouTube. We are there. So yeah, a big thank you from me, Lee, and
me, Nathan.
Brilliant. All right, hopefully hear from you next time. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Thanks.